Mr. Wilkinson. Mr. Castro, how are you this evening, sir?
Good, how are you?
I'm well, thank you. Mr. Besabika, may I not? I'd be remiss if I didn't mention you. And Chief, the double chiefs. All right, I'm done with all my shout outs. Thank you.
Oh, I don't get a shout out, Anthony. Wow.
Oh, Mayor Pro Tem, you was the last on the list. I just heard your name. And Mayor, I got to throw the mayor in there. I get kicked off this council if I didn't throw the mayor in there.
Good evening, everyone.
I'm gonna have to check out of here in a couple of minutes, but just for a minute.
Chelsea, are you excited to be in charge tonight?
Very excited. Is the mayor here? We can call the meeting to order, whatever.
Now it looks like the mayor and Jennifer are not here yet.
Okay.
Oh, there's Jennifer. It looks like just the mayor.
Do you guys want to give her a few minutes, or Mayor Pro Tem if you wanted to?
She just reached out to me, so she should be on in a second. She's
Okay.
Yeah. But you know, if she's not on by 7:05, we can go ahead and get started.
Okay, sounds good.
Good evening, everyone. My apologies for being 3 minutes late. I was having trouble finding my invite to get in. So how is everyone this evening?
Very
good. Very
good.
Thank
you.
Okay.
Hi.
Okay, Miss Thomas, welcome. I think this is the first time that we have had the pleasure of you being with us on our meeting as the clerk. So thank you so much for joining us. And if you would, call the roll. We'll call the meeting to order, please. Thank you.
Okay. All right, so prior to me calling the roll, could you please state your physical location? Councilmember Wilcoxon?
Present, City of Ypsilanti, County of Washtenaw.
Mayor Pro Tem Brown?
Present, City of Ypsilanti, Washtenaw County.
Councilmember Somerville?
Present, City of Ypsilanti, Washtenaw County.
Mayor Richardson?
Present, City of Ypsilanti, Washtenaw County.
Councilmember Morgan?
Present, City of Ypsilanti, Washtenaw County.
Councilmember Simmons?
I'm attending virtually from the City of Ypsilanti, County of Washtenaw.
And Mr. Jones Chance.
President, City of Ypsilanti, County of Washington.
Next on the agenda, we have the agenda approval.
Okay, before we go to that, I would just like to say, council, it is so nice to see everyone's face. I have been getting calls and people commenting about us not showing our faces and that we really were in a meeting. So as I look here, I see everybody. So thank you very much. And if we can stay, I know sometimes we might have to step away, but as much as, you know, unless you have to, please, let's just continue to show ourselves for our constituents. Thank you. Okay, Ms. Thomas, carry on, please.
So next on the agenda, it's the agenda approval.
So move.
Or,
It's been moved and supported. All in favor?
aye.
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 Thank you.
Next
We-
on the agenda, sorry. Okay,
No,
so
go
next,
ahead.
next on the agenda, we have a presentation from Yucca, updates on the West Cross construction and future projects.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of council, City Manager McMullen.
Good
and
evening.
Good evening. Good to see you all of your smiling faces. And all of the department managers and department employees. It's good to see you folks. My name is Michael Beaudry. I am appointed by City Council on a regular basis to be a representative on the YCUA Board of Commissioners. And I am currently the chairperson of the Board of Commissioners for our multiple county area. We go into a little bit into Wayne County with our services, but we also mostly handle Washtenaw County. YCUA is happy to partner along with the city and the township and other government agencies to provide safe water and disposal of our wastes in a proper manner. So it's at your request that we came to answer any questions about the current construction and water main replacement that is going on in downtown Ypsilanti. And to let you know that we have known about this project for a few years now. It was scheduled originally to take place next year, but because the because the state of Michigan requested that we move that up to this summer, we began the project just a few weeks ago. It's a very major project. We have to get down and I'll let the engineering people and the OHM people better explain that. But before I go any further, let me introduce a few of them to you. We have with us here Jeffrey Castro, who's our director, the director of YCUA. We have Mr. Scott Westover, who is the YCUA engineering manager. We have from OHM Advisors, Mr. Matt Parks, who's a principal with them, and they do engineering service and design. And we also have Mr. Greg Marker, who's the practice leader for construction with OHM. And Greg also is a local person that we know quite well. He's been involved in a lot of projects in Ypsilanti. So we welcome them all here. And if I've missed anybody, I apologize. Please let me know if I missed you. And,
Rachel Jackson.
sorry?
Yeah.
Rachel Jackson.
Jackson. Yeah.
Well, okay.
Good evening, council and mayor.
All right.
But I work with the city, so they recognize me. So I'm not new to anybody, I don't think, at least. I don't believe so.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Jackson. I appreciate you coming too. Thank you.
Yeah.
So without further ado, I'm going to let them answer your questions. Now, it was brought to me by Ms. Westler that you had some questions for us at YCUA, And this is not really a presentation because we've been putting out these letters stating what's going on and how long we expect it to go on for this phase of the project. Understand, this is only one phase of the project. So let either Mr. Castro or Mr. Parks take over from here and talk to you more. As I said, there's no real presentation, but they can answer questions.
Yeah, thank you real quick. Jeff Castro, Director here at YCUA here. Good evening, Council. As Mr. Beaudry stated, we've handed out multiple memos and handouts for you to read, and hopefully you've read them and understand at least a tad of what's happening. It is a very difficult project, but if you'd like either Mr. Parks or Mr. Westover to give you a brief review of what we're doing before you want to ask any questions, that is fine. I'll leave that one up to you, or we can go right to questions and answers.
If I could just jump in real quick, Jeff and Council, thank you. In addition to we're going to try and do a weekly release with an update on the status of the project and what's coming up in the next week to 10 days. Should be one coming out the next day or two this week. We previously also issued a slideshow, and OHM prepared a video. We thought those were very self-explanatory and hopefully answered a lot of the questions, and didn't feel it would be necessary to go through those in any great detail. They're out there. And so hopefully maybe they answered some questions, and if they generated some questions or didn't answer some questions, that's why we're here.
If I may, could we ask for just a little short, maybe concise presentation for our residents? Those
Certainly.
that are here and those that are zooming in. Thank you.
Yep, I will give it a go. As Mr. Beaudry had mentioned, MDOT had this project on the books for several years. We really started taking a long, hard look at it just over a year ago, just about pre-pandemic. And at that point, it was all envisioned to be all 2022 construction, all US 12 and M17. So being Cross Street, Washtenaw from the tower down to Hamilton, Hamilton down to 94, Huron back from 94 to Cross Street, as well as Michigan Avenue downtown. I don't remember exactly when MDOT decided to push West Cross Street, but we agreed that we could make that happen. That's where we are right now, West Cross Street being phase one. Those other legs of the corridors are going to be more complete water main replacement than you are seeing on Cross Street right now, which is more of, we're not doing much with the water main itself. It's one of the oldest in the system, but it's one of the best conditioned pipes we've seen out there, and it continues to have longevity and will be in service for a long time. The other legs being Hamilton, Huron, Washtenaw, Michigan, those pipes are smaller, not as good material. So those will be more of the traditional type of project you've seen in the city over the last 20 years or so, whether it was in a neighborhood or when we've done Congress or Lowell, where we're going from one end of the street to the other and replacing the main and all the services and hydrants and whatnot. So that's going to be much more of a traditional project than what you're seeing this year on West Cross Street.
Thank you. Any questions, Council? Any comments? Anything else you want to present to us?
If I could butt in real quick, Jeff Cashel, Director of YCUA here, is what makes this project a little different than any other project is along with this project comes the new required lead and copper rule. So when any project that's being done, we are required now to replace any and all lead services, or any galvanized that was previously connected to lead services that exist between the building and the water main. So as we do these repairs, we can't ignore these, we have to replace them. So that's what makes this a little more difficult as well. Normally in the past, for the past 30-40 years, YCUA has never replaced a private side of a water service. It's required that we do that now if it's lead or galvanized, and that's what makes this a little more difficult. And I mean, we support the EPA and Eagle on getting the lead out, and that's what we're doing. So that's what makes this a little bit more difficult for us and brand new for the city. and the township moving forward for the next 20 years. Anything that we do as far as repair, we got to start getting the lead out, and that's what we're doing.
And if I can add, if you recall, some of the council members may recall that about 20 years ago, the city decided to go in all the local streets, essentially all the local streets, and replace water main and services in conjunction with the paving improvements the city did at the time. During those projects, YCUA replaced all services, all non-copper services from the water main to the right-of-way line with copper. So in those neighborhoods, we were satisfying the lead and copper rule between the water main and the basically the back of sidewalk, more or less. These corridors here, US 12 and M17, we haven't done much in the way of water main improvements over the years. And so both on the private property side between the sidewalk and the house and our side between between the stop box and the water main, there's a lot of these galvanized or lead services. And so when MDOT said they were coming in to do these paving improvements, we knew that it was time that we had to tackle the lead and copper rule. And that was one of the major impetuses for us taking on these projects in these corridors.
Okay, thank you. Council Member Morgan.
Thank you, Mayor. A question, along with the water system improvements and making these upgrades to with the lead and copper rule, is that in the Labor Day timeline, is that in conjunction with doing both of these tasks at the same time, or could that potentially lengthen it? Is Labor Day, like, according to how many you find and how many you replace as you go along the process?
Well, I think Labor Day is definitely a hard stop for us. I think we did enough homework and field investigation during the design phase to have about as good a handle as we could going into this as an inventory, in terms of an inventory of what types of material we'd be encountering on these water service on West Cross Street. So I think we're in really good shape. Am I going to guarantee that we're not going to find something out there? Never, because we can't see underground. And so we're going to find things that we don't expect, but I think we've got enough that we know that we're in pretty good shape to meet, that we will meet that Labor Day deadline.
Okay.
Very, thank you. Mr. Wilcoxon.
I'm sorry, I feel like I'm not well informed on this, and I should be, but in terms of the replacement cost for those, in the past, the EPA and the federal government has given grants to do this kind of upgrades. Is that cost being offset at all by federal money, or is that where's that coming from?
We've looked, but we have not identified any grants at this time that are available to us. Jeff, maybe you know more on that end than I, but there's just doesn't seem to be very much out there in terms of grant monies.
Okay.
Yeah, it's coming though. I do believe in the next probably 5 years, there'll be more grants, because every utility in the state of Michigan has 20 years to remove all the lead services, regardless if it's on the private side of the property or on the public side, our side. In the past, we've only replaced the public side. So basically from the sidewalk to the home, that's all private property. And that's what's new now that we have to replace. So no, that's basically from water rates, sewer rates.
Okay, thank you.
If I could add, the grants I've seen thus far seem geared towards the much smaller systems, maybe the rural systems, much more so than somebody our size.
Gotcha. Is there an estimate to with the past construction going with the local paving? Do you have any estimate on how many homes still have the galvanized? I mean, it's hard to know until you get in there, but gauging on previous work.
I should have been first for that question, and the numbers are not at my fingertips right now. We have identified, I want to say 400 lead services at this point between the stop box and home, somewhere in that range. There are quite a few that we are still in the we have roughly, I believe about 2,500 right now that we're still investigating. And the deadline to have that investigation done is December 31st of 2024, I believe. So we're well on pace to identify them all.
Mhm.
I'm a little hesitant to throw a guess at how many of those 2,500 are going to be lead. And we may end up with, I don't know, 600, 700 total, I'm thinking, if you wanted to hold my feet to the fire.
Yes, if I could intervene real quick, council member, we did our initial inventory that was due in 2020. So that's been accomplished. And as Scott stated, we have another few years to investigate. And what we're doing right now is we're as we replace each water meter and any excavation that we do, we're going in people's homes and when we do an excavating, we're observing what we're digging up and we're documenting everything. We've really got a good handle on it. But furthermore, I think the city of Ypsilanti and the township deserve great credit here for the past 20 years. The road projects and the water main projects that the city did in the past 20 years has just been phenomenal. And it's going to save YCUA, the city, a great deal of pain because a lot of them does not have to be replaced because they're already replaced. Now we just have to worry about mostly is what's between the sidewalk and the home.
Will there be any cost to the residents when you go from the sidewalk to the home?
Currently, all costs are associated with YCUA.
Okay.
However, moving forward, will this have an effect on rates? Absolutely, it could. And we will seek out grants as we can.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions or comments from council?
Last but least, if I could say that when we replace each lead service, we, with thanks to OHM, we have a work plan, construction work plan that we work with each homeowner or customer. So they are a part of this because they must let us in their home to replace, the water line, and we still got to connect the water meter and everything on the interior side. So we work directly with each customer. So OHM is doing a great job with that.
Yes, Mr. Wilcoxon.
If you could, with the crisis in Flint, still in everybody's mind, and that being caused by lead pipes, can you explain the difference in the water chemistry and the lead pipes that we have here versus what was going on to create that conflict?
Well, we all receive our water from the Great Lakes Water Authority, and they treat the water with orthophosphate. And it's basically a chemical that adheres to the interior of the pipe, and it eliminates the lead from leaching out into the water going into your home. So we're all in good shape. They've always added orthophosphate. There's orthophosphate in everybody's pipe, and that's what eliminates the lead from leaching out of the lead pipe into your water. What happened in Flint was they shut off the pipe to the Great Lakes Water Authority and started treating their own water out of Flint. Flint River is corrosive, and they weren't adding corrosion control. So as they were running new water in their pipes, it was actually washing away the previous stabilized orthophosphate that had been in their pipes for the previous 30 years from the Detroit water and sewer system. And that's what happened to them. So eventually it washed away all their orthophosphate and the lead started leaching out, and the crisis began. Once crisis was discovered, and after a year or two, then they finally shut off the Flint and went back to the Great Lakes Water Authority, which reestablished orthophosphate, and that's where they're at now.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments?
If I may, Madam Mayor, this is Matt Parks with OHM. Thank you for the introduction earlier, Mike. And yeah, our team is fully engaged. We're working with YCUA daily. Greg Marker deserves a lot of the credit working with YCUA field staff out there, working with the businesses and the impacts. Obviously, this is a tough area to work in. The water infrastructure is one thing, but the traffic control is a whole nother animal. So we're working with that. Bonnie has been extremely helpful working with us on the traffic control. So we appreciate that. One thing I do want to outline, the Labor Day date was brought up, and I feel remiss not to bring it up. And I think we tackle it pretty well in the video that Mr. Westover mentioned, but around Labor Day, we're going to be wrapping up hopefully with no issues and moving out. And it's going to seem like construction's taking a pause or a break, and you're going to see a lot of traffic control things change and go away, and then they're going to come right back in. And I just want City Council to understand that MDOT's going to be mobilizing and coming in. So when you see some of the pavement patches, when you see some of the restoration occurring during the water main work, a lot of that's temporary in nature. And so I don't want council to get questions or businesses thinking, why are they just bringing, concrete back in and doing these patches? Is this what the road's going to look like? And I think it's important for you all to understand that MDOT will come through after Labor Day and do a full mill infill, as well as, and I think they're willing to meet with council before their projects kick off, but they're doing a bunch of ADA ramp upgrades and changes, concrete work. So anything YCUA does as part of their job, OHM and YCUA will work with our contractor to restore it and get it prepped and ready for MDOT to come in and kind of polish it up and make it final. And again, the same kind of routine will more than likely occur next year or later this year on the other roads that Scott mentioned, Hamilton, Huron, Michigan, Washtenaw.
Thank you. We were very fortunate as a city. I happen to be on council when we redid the roads before. And that was one of the things that our then Mayor Farmer was really pushing for, and council was very much in agreement that we change all the pipes while the roads were open, so we would not have to have the cuts to go back and do the work. So that was really good forward thinking. So.
Absolutely. There's a lot of
Yes.
utilities in the state of Michigan who I have met with who wished they would have done what the city has done. And I can't tell you how proud I am to be in this community and say, this is what we did. This is what we did. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Yeah. Any other questions or comments?
My last question. What is the lifespan of the work that we're doing right now in this construction project? Another 20 years, maybe another 25 years?
The minimum assumed life for any pipe work is 50 years, and it's typically at least double that in reality.
Okay.
But a design life is 50 years, but that's very, very, very conservative.
Oh, nice. Thank you.
50 years is conservative?
It's on the low side. I mean, when I say conservative,
Yeah.
we get double that out of our pipes typically very easily. Yes.
Right. No, I understood what you were saying, but I just want to
Yep.
make sure I was hearing correctly. Okay. So it could be, all right, that's good to know that it could be longer than 50 years. So
The pavement should be redone several times before we have to get in there and do much with our pipes.
Wow. Okay.
okay. So is that true for what we have under our streets now that we already have in there, or no?
What with the local areas that were done 20 years ago? Absolutely.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
All right. Thank you.
Certainly.
Any
I
other?
have no further questions. Thank you.
Yes, go ahead.
I said I have no more questions. I just said thank you.
Oh, okay. Anyone else have a question or comment? Well, I want to thank all of you so very much, Mr. Castro, Mr. Westover, Mr. Parks, and Mr. Beaudry, and Miss Jackson's not showing on my screen, but Miss Jackson, are you still there with us?
Yes, she's there.
Here, Mayor.
Thank you so much. Appreciate this presentation, and always happy to have Yucca make a visit to us, as long as you're not going up on our rates. Mr. Wilcoxon has his hand up.
I didn't have any other questions about this project, but there's an item on our agenda later that is related to Yucca, and that we're looking at adding unpaid water bills to the tax roll. And I noticed that some of those were really high bills, you know, thousands of dollars, $5,000. And I talked with Mr. Castro earlier about the policy of not shutting off water. And so, you know, I can understand how in the last year or two that people's ability to pay has gone up. I'm just curious about if there's ever a limit to how large those bills get before there is contemplation of shutting off the water, rather than having this now go on to the tax rolls and create other burdens for the homeowners that way.
Well, at this time, water shutoffs, some utilities are going back to shutting water off. YCUA is not at this time, because we believe that people are still struggling. And as far as water bills going on taxes, that's something we've always done. It's not new. You're just seeing more of it now. So we're hoping that starts to diminish and get back to normal. But before we go back to termination of water service, it used to be around $200. But then we always try to work with the customer with a payment plan. And if they can make that payment plan, that's fine. And if they can't, then we would send them a letter and eventually terminate the water. So, I mean, we're happy that we're able not to terminate water services at this time, because many utilities are struggling with lack of revenue. For the most part, we seem to be doing okay and holding our own. But yes, you are going to see more in the city and the township of water bills going on their taxes for delinquent, which is normal, but you're just seeing more of it.
All right. And so those bills that are like $5,000, you know, what's the timeline for how that accumulated to that level? Is that within the last 6 months? Because we do this twice a year, and I don't recall seeing it the last time we did it. So I'm trying to figure out if this is a year's worth of accumulation for these homes, or if it's different amounts of times for that.
It could be a year accumulation, and it could be that we've tried to work with this customer on multiple situations, and they just failed to make the payment. So then we started again, and we're just trying to work with the customers the best that we can. And if these bills appear to be a little high before they go on the taxes, I apologize for that. But we're doing the best that we can to manage that. But I'll look into that more and give you a better answer if you allow me to do that.
Okay, that would be great.
Yep. How many, can I ask you how many accounts that you've seen with that figure or exceeded that figure?
There were at least about a dozen that were up over $1,500, $2,000. Some that were as high as, I saw one that was $4,700. I'm scrolling to that now, but yeah, there's several. I mean, the total is $87,000. So there's several that are well over $1,000.
How about if I look at that, and can I just send you an email and you can respond to me in my
Sure, that would be great. Thank you.
We'll do that.
Thanks.
Okay, anything else? Okay, seeing nothing, thank you again for coming, and always welcome.
Hey, Greg.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Sorry, Mr. Marker, I missed you when I was thanking everyone. Thank you.
No problem at all, Lois. It's good to see everybody. I'm glad it's a pleasure to be back in town and really buttoning up all the work we started in 2001. So, it's been a long road to get here, and I'm really honored to be able to take all that local streets and tie it into the MDOT ones and pull this all together after 20 years of work. So it's a real pleasure.
Lots of good work. It took a while, but it's all good work.
We don't do this easy.
Thank
For
you,
the-
Mayor and Council,
For
for all
the
of the
next
work.
50 years at least. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, have a great night.
You too. All right, Ms. Thomas, next on the agenda, please.
Hey, Council, next on the agenda would be the public comment. We currently have 16 attendees. If you would like to address council, please raise your hand. You'll have 3 minutes to address council. I'll give them a few seconds. Okay, first speaker, we have Kate Layton. Excuse me if I pronounce your last name wrong.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Hi, I was just having a general question about the board and commissions. The last time it was updated was November 2020, and I was wondering if there's going to be an update on the vacancies.
Would you repeat your question, please?
Yes, ma'am. Hi, Kat Layton here. I was having a comment on the board and commissions and wondering when the last time it was updated was 7 months ago. And I was wondering if there's any vacancies for any board and commissions participation.
Okay, we will answer you when we get through with public comment. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay.
Is there anyone else?
Yes, next we have Anthony Williamson.
Okay, I don't know what happened. I was disconnected for a minute, but good evening, Mayor and Council. I just wanted to share some updates about Park Ridge Community Center. And can I use this time to do that? My question.
Yes, you can.
Okay. So
Can you
I wanted to ask about the signs in the parking lot. There were some discussions about putting signs in the parking lot between public housing and Park Ridge Community Center. Wanted to update on that. Let you know the summer camp begins July 5th, and we're having 32 kids in the educational camp. I don't know if you're aware, but Washtenaw County awarded us some money to paint the outside of the fluted brick at Park Ridge. I wanted to talk to someone in council about what color that should be, because I'm terrible with colors. And I'm considering hiring a Michigan Works youth to work with us in the park program. Is wondering if the city would partner with us in Michigan Works to hire a community young person to help us with the park. And last, I wanted to talk about our Summerfest is August 28th. I submitted the application. Would the city be interested in partnering with us to do Summerfest this year? And if so, what is the process for that? And let me see, there was one more. Funding. Is there funding for Summerfest this year? In previous years, we were awarded some money and wanted to see if that was available. And if so, what's the process? Thank you.
Thank you.
And next we have Brian.
Hey everybody, hope you can hear me. This is Brian Geringer, gerrymander part of Ward 1, gentrified 2. I'm here to continue the dialogue about the addition of 3 new police officers to the YPD. As I've stated before, I do not support that. And so I want to talk about what justifies the potential $1 million shortfall to our budget, the potential to bankrupting the city. And I want to mention before I go into this that it sounds, from what I understand, like you have until either this meeting or next meeting to right that wrong. I hope you do so. So a few points. First, just that no proof has been provided for us at all for any of this. There's no proof that there's a shortage of cops. There's no proof that there are long wait lines other than long waits for cops other than anecdotal evidence. Chief Giusti literally said that he'd always advocate for more, so that doesn't count. Anecdotal evidence is not proof. we need to provide so much proof for you to do anything regarding affordable housing or other social programs. I don't know why these things just pass without any even attempt at evidence. I also want to just say, especially regarding what Councilmember Jones-Chance said to us last meeting, that it's actually so ridiculous that you are approaching this with the idea that people advocating not to hire more cops don't care about gun violence. That's not the case. The problem is that hiring more cops does not work. It doesn't work. That's the problem. So we actually do care about gun violence. And I would say you don't, because you're doing something that actually doesn't do anything. And if you wanted to know whether that does anything, why don't you look at the correlation between the city police budget and gun violence in the city? Because what you would find is that there's no correlation. And I know, because we ran the numbers, Allison Ivy and I. So the things that do work, that have shown to work in other communities, is to put resources into the actual community. In fact, it would probably be better if you just gave money to people. Give money to people in New Park Ridge. That's what, just do it. And we will publish that graph, so don't worry about that. I have a lot of thoughts, but one thing I do want to say also to Councilmember Jones-Chance, who proposed in his soliloquy last time that, he wants to say, he wants to challenge us to go walk around New Park Ridge and ask people if they want more cops. I would love to walk around New Park Ridge and with you and talk to people and see what they want. And I'll tell them about the correlations between police budget and gun violence, and that there isn't one. Your colleagues have my email. So thank you all.
Thank you, Mr. Geringer.
All right, next we have Amber Fellows.
Good evening, Mayor and residents of Ypsilanti. I'm here to respond to the continued discontentment of myself and others about the lack of accountability around police public notice and input about the city's budget as it relates to police, and specifically to the city council members that made this decision. To get a couple things out rapid fire style, anyone on city council may move to amend the budget at any time, and you should do so to remove the 3 police officer positions from the budget allocation and schedule a public input specific to this issue. Jennifer Simmons was a cop and is biased towards the institution of policing. She also wasn't challenged in her election. I've heard multiple rumors that some of you on the council are technically carpetbaggers. Nicole Brown's anecdotal story about the down power line is not convincing argument for increasing the police budget, but is rather a good argument for needing more resources for the fire department. To Brian Jones-Chance, I'm going to keep it as simple as I can. Using the residents of New Park Ridge as political football to advance your interests is obscene. You're a 30-something-year-old cop-loving boomer, writing a check your ass can't cash, and doing so for the aim of setting up a standing army upon a neighborhood you do not live in the name of progress. Your callous showing of political theater is a tactic of manipulation. It is embarrassing and abusive. It's clear that you like to spin a narrative, so let me offer you an alternative one. Your experience as a lifelong resident of Ypsi and young-ish Black man is relevant to this issue, no doubt. But what is also relevant information that you failed to include is the fact that you co-own a microbrewery in Depot Town. You send your kids to private school, you're a regular guest on NPR, and that you're a twice appointed, non-elected council member in a ward that was literally disenfranchised this past election. 2 weeks ago, you also misled the public in believing that you're somehow proximate to the folks you aim to over-police. You're out here saying over-police communities and Ypsi residents marginalized by felony conviction need more policing. And for what reason? Is it possible because your microbrewery would benefit from cracking down on poverty and furthering the gentrification in Ypsi? Your hypocrisy is shameful, it's cringe, your personal interests are fully transparent and arguably a conflict of interest. I don't imagine your political career will last much longer than this, but if you had any sense, you'd consult with Mayor Richardson real fast about how to handle yourself under scrutiny. and I am calling again for you to step down immediately.
Thank you, Ms. Fellows. Next.
Okay, so we currently have no one that have their hand raised. I will give them a few seconds. Seeing that there's none, I think that we can move on to the next item on the agenda.
All right, thank you.
All right, so next council would be the consent agenda. Resolution number 2021, sorry about that, 2021-123, resolved by the Council of the City of Ypsilanti that the following items be approved. Resolution number 2021-124, approving the minutes of June 1st, 2021. Resolution number 2021-125, approving appointments to boards and commissions. Resolution 2021-126, approving special assessments to be added to the 2021 summer tax roll. Resolution number 2021-127, requiring that all transferred employees shall be given the individual choice to either be placed in the open or closed plan if it is the same plan type, provided there are active employees remaining in the closed plan for the Michigan Employees Retirement Systems of Michigan.
Is there a motion?
So move.
Support.
It's been moved by Council Member Morgan and supported by Mayor Pro Tem Brown. Any questions, discussion? No. Would you call the roll, please?
Yes. Mayor Pro Tem Brown,
Yes.
Councilmember Somerville,
Yes.
Mayor Richardson,
Yes.
Councilmember Morgan,
Yes.
Councilmember Simmons,
Yes.
Mr. Jones Chance,
Yes.
Councilmember Wilcoxon.
Yeah.
All right, so we have a total of 7 yes to vote. The motion carries.
Thank you.
All right, so next on the agenda, we have resolution 2021-128. Resolution 2021-128 resolved by the Council of the City of Ypsilanti, whereas the City of Ypsilanti owns the Water Street property and is in the process of securing a developer to redevelop the site, and whereas the levels of PCB contamination are an issue having many requirements that the rest of the property does not fall under, and whereas the City of TIF collection in Washtenaw County LBRF will be used for funding this project, now therefore be resolved that the City of Ypsilanti Council approve the estimate from AKT Peerless to and approve bidding out the Water Street.
So moved.
I'll support.
It's been moved and supported. Discussion. Mr. Myers.
I wrote everything in the memo that I have to say. If anyone has any questions, this is a fully funded project. You will see a budget amendment come after we get the bids back from the bidding out of this project, but it's essentially to really clean up some of the worst contaminated spots of the property.
Thank you. Any questions or comments?
I have one question.
Yeah.
I just want to know, like, in the time of dealing with this property here at Water Street, have we ever had a consultant to undertake this task, and have we ever had it looked at and priced out for remediation, or is this the very first time?
So we've had many different consultants on this property. We bid this out similar to what we do with our engineering firm. And so AKT has been our consultant now since 2015. They've done a fantastic job. As far as cleaning up the property, the reason why we don't have an actual estimate for that is it depends on the use of the property. So each level of use, commercial,
or residential have a different level of contamination that they are allowed to have in any property. So it is very site specific. The reason why we're doing this cleanup is the levels of PCBs are so high that in order for us to actually properly market the site, we need to clean this up, and we found the funding to do it.
So you say there's different uses, and so with each use, there has a different toxicity level that's acceptable, you're saying?
Yes.
Okay, now with that, with however many acres, what have we located over the last 20 years or whatever, how much money it would take to take most of the toxicity out of the soil or whatever to be able to have the maximum amount of space available for whatever use?
So if we were to put in all manufacturing down there, it would be we could have much higher concentrations of the contaminants than if we were to put all single family residential. And so because each development has had multiple components, it really comes down to where the contaminants are and how they are remediated. So some are remediated by capping it or pouring concrete over it. Some are remediated by actually putting boulders. Some have to be dug out of the ground and moved off site. And so we know where all the contamination is on the property, Councilmember Morgan. We know how to get rid of it, and we know the different ways that we need to get rid of it, but it all comes down to cost. And so to really remediate everything for single family residential, we're talking probably $30 million. To remediate everything properly for a commercial, mixed use development, it could be $8 million. It really just depends. And in some cases, it would be much less than that. Over the past 20 years, we've spent over $10 million cleaning up this property. And so a lot of the work has been done. There's just one section left that we have work to do, and we need to do to make sure that we don't have to put down deed restrictions or pour a bunch of concrete that could be removed for development. So
last question. That site, some of that site was a junkyard at one point, correct?
Essentially, yes. It wasn't a designated junkyard, but there was a lot of junk thrown there.
So of course, the uses that it was prior to what it is now is probably in conjunction to the toxicity levels.
Yes.
Like, okay, so to clean the junkyard up, probably have more stuff in the soil than if it was just some kind of just empty lot.
Yeah, so right now the PCBs are essentially old solvents that were just dumped on the property many, many years ago, like probably more than 50 years ago, and very high concentrations. And so we've cleaned the vast majority of the dumping. We're talking now out of the 38 acres, there's probably contamination on 7 of the acres and not all of the 7. This is the worst part.
Okay. And just out of curiosity, what kind of people who are developers, who would develop on this just the way it is? What kind of businesses would, like maybe another junkyard, perhaps?
No.
Or a factory or something like that? Like the factory across the street next to the Coney Island car wash, if they were to move over there, would they have to do much cleaning because of the nature of the thing? Okay.
Yeah, so I mean, when you're dealing with new construction of any type, you have to bring it to a certain level. And so right now we're dealing with the hotspots, which is over 50,000 parts per billion of PCBs. You have to get that under 5,000 parts per billion for industrial, I think. And for residential, you have to be well below 1,000 parts per billion. So.
Thank you for that information, Joe.
Thank you. Any other questions? I see your hand, Ms. Somerville.
This is just really quickly, Joe, the funding for the local brownfield, like that fund, is that just state and like county, state and federal money that goes into that? Where does all the money come from?
So the local brownfield remediation fund?
Yeah.
Well, every brownfield plan that is done in Washtenaw County contributes 1 year of capture to the what we awfully refer to as the LBARF. And it's and essentially, so every project, the last year of capture goes into this fund, and it's to do projects that for city-owned properties that you can't collect tax revenues on. And so we've gotten the most of this funding for this property. And then we just got another bit as well. But it's essentially every project that has a brownfield, 1 year of capture goes into it, and then we can fund projects that wouldn't have any other funding source.
And that's like the only place the money comes from.
That's correct. Well,
okay.
Yes, but that the money that goes in there is part of the school tax capture, the county tax capture, as well as the city tax capture. On top of that, and the schools are made whole by the state, so it's not like the schools are out any money for it, but that is what goes into that.
Cool, thank you.
No problem.
Anyone else?
Steve has his hand up.
Okay, I'm sorry. My screen slipped, and so everybody's not on the same screen anymore. So yes, Mr. Wilcoxon.
Thank you, Mayor. $214,000 isn't a whole lot of money when you think about removing topsoil and taking it to a landfill that would be certified to deal with this. You know, you were saying there's 7 acres, and
so
what's involved in that estimate? I mean,
okay, so we're not cleaning up the 7 acres. What we did is we knew there was these 2 spots of highly concentrated PCBs on the site. And so we basically did a grid and actually figured out exactly where those high concentrations were. And so we're cleaning up 2 spots within that 7 acres. Now, in that 7 acres, there are spots where there's 25,000 PCB parts per billion PCBs. Those do not require the same level of scrutiny that the over 50,000 does. And so so that's why we chose these 2 spots. The spots 25,000 or less will be handled through, they kind of call it through like groundwork. So when you're doing the development, they can actually get rid of that while you're actually laying down roads. But this was 2 very specific spots that it would, if we kept them where they were, it triggers us to go to the federal TSCA standards, which then requires much more work, and it requires a lot more that we really don't want to do as far as a city, regardless, because it's not just you know, saying, oh, you're putting up a fence. We have to actually go through and cap it, as well as deed restrict the property, and all of those things just add a lot more complexity. So we'd rather spend the money to get that out. We're talking.
Is there any indication that I gather that these were from barrels that had been placed there?
I actually don't know if they were barrels, but probably.
But they're that tight of a source that it wouldn't be from leakage from one of the floors of one of those plants or anything. Anyway, is there any indication that how? I'm curious about how far down you have to go with the low water table at that point. Just curious about the leaching into the river. You know.
I can find all that out for you. I don't know the answer. That's why we have the consultant. And so.
All right, thanks.
I know that is definitely in your wheelhouse. So I'll go over some of the stuff with you.
All right, thanks, Joe.
Any other questions or comments?
Yep.
Mr. Jones Chance.
Yeah, Joe, has any of the work done so far increased the likelihood that MISTA would fund an affordable housing project on the site, or has it made it any more appealing that a developer would make up the difference?
So I don't believe so. And I don't believe so is MISHDA standards are clean up the entire property to residential standards before you can get LIHTC tax credits.
And do they mean all of the contiguous parts of it? Or, let's say if it were subdivided into separate large lots, could you just clean up the large lot and then they would fund it? Or
So
do all
according to-
adjacent parcels have to be cleaned up?
According to MISHDA, if you had a lot, because we tried this with the Riverfront Commons development, they said you
Mhm.
an 8-foot high fence surrounding the development in order for them to fund it, which we don't want to do. So,
Okay.
um,
So the likelihood even of a, developer coming in and let's say we've done, I don't know, 70% of a certain area and like finishing the job is close to zero.
yeah, so that's why with this site, unlike the 220 North Park site, having a developer who's willing to work with us on some affordable is better than having a developer not be able to get tax credits for no affordable. And so that's what makes this site really, I mean, we're getting close to cleaning it up, but realistically, until, it's always a chicken or the egg game when it comes to any development. But due to the contamination on this property, at MISHDA stance and the individuals at MISHDA that are still employed that review all the environmental work that would need to be done, it's really a challenge.
Okay, thanks.
No problem.
Anyone else? Ms. Simmons, you're not on my screen right now, but did you have anything?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, if there are no further questions or comments, please call the roll.
Okay. Councilmember Somerville,
Yes.
Mayor Richardson,
Yes.
Councilmember Morgan,
Yes.
Councilmember Simmons,
Yes.
Mr. Jones Chance,
Yes.
Councilmember Wilcoxen,
Yes.
and Mayor Pro Tem Brown.
Yes.
All right, with 7 yes votes, the motion carries.
Okay, thank you. And thank you for that presentation, Mr. Myers. Appreciate it.
Okay, next we have on the agenda is resolution number 2021-129. Resolved by the Council of the City of Ypsilanti, whereas the City of Ypsilanti adopted a special events policy, and pursuant to the policy, the City Council may waive fees for an event if it is of a general interest to the public and advances the city's public image. And whereas this year a Juneteenth celebration will take place on June 19th on Fair Street in the South Huron parking lot. And whereas the Juneteenth organizer is requesting a full fee waiver for the 2021 celebration. And now therefore be it resolved that the City of Ypsilanti Council, the Ypsilanti City Council approves the request of a full fee waiver for the 2021 Juneteenth celebration in the amount of $4,418.90.
Support.
Was there a motion? I heard someone say support. I didn't hear a motion.
So move.
Support.
Okay, so it's been moved and properly second. Any questions or comments from council?
Yeah.
Miss Esty, are you still here?
I'm here.
Okay, was there anything that you wanted to present to us before I understand that you put this on this agenda on this item on the agenda.
I don't really have anything to present. I know an application was received, requested for a fee waiver. It's kind of been a last minute sort of thing, so we put it on the agenda.
Mayor, I have a comment.
Yes.
Well, we might as well start this conversation off. So it could be convoluted, but I do, first of all, with the language and the motion said it basically, if it increases, if it betters our image, and if it's basically good for the citizens of Ypsilanti, and I'm paraphrasing that, that is the intent behind the event. I think it was a great, first I want to say thank you to all the people who were involved in creating the Black Lives Matter murals, all the painters, all the organizers, all the donors. But then we're thinking about a holiday, okay? It was, now I asked earlier, was it observed, was it recognized, or was it just celebrated as a holiday here in the city? And like I say if the Memorial Day parade was something that was observed and there was a funding or a budget allocated to that specific event, I think this would fall underneath that. However, if there was something like the Heritage Fest that just needed fees waived as an event that happens annually, I would put that under that also. I don't agree with this being an annual thing as far as if we were to potentially waive these fees. So I do want to be fair, and I want to have a clear understanding between being observed, being recognized, or just being celebrated. I do believe being observed denotes having some type of community event along with it. So I'm in support of the event. I'm in support of what it means. Now, as far as the waiver, I do think this is my total thing. I think as far as it'd be a great gesture if whatever the police force was attempting to, whatever their bill is, it'd be a great gesture if they was to say, hey, we'll do this for free because of what it means. Of course, same thing with DPS. Like I think this being in the times that we're having in our city, being one of the front runners in expressing Juneteenth as a holiday, I think we should back that up by supporting this inaugural waiver of fees. I would minus the application fee. I think everybody should pay an application. So that was my take on it. So again, I don't know, and I want to be fair with past events that we've probably waived fees for, but I don't want anybody believing they can come for any reason to get fees waived. And so I want to be fair. I don't want this to stand out, but I do think this, like again, like if there was a group from Pride Month that asked to waive a fee in Pride Month, how amazing would that be if we could do that for them? So it's things of that nature. I think we have the power to be lenient, but not be pushed over. So that's my take on it. I would support this if, like I say, I do think the application fee should be paid for, because I think every person, every group that seeks to do an event should pay an application fee across the board. And so those are my 2 cents, and I have questions when council gets into the deliberation. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? Ooh, everybody. Yes, Ms. Simmons.
Oh, I mean, I guess I was curious too about, what is our history for waiving fees and whatnot. And, I'm not sure how we establish who has a hardship or not, you know what I mean, from a budgetary standpoint. So this is a little bit newer for me. So I'm just kind of curious if there's any history that we have, or someone can kind of tell me a little more about that.
Ms. Estes, would you please go through the process, the application, the whole special events process, applications and requests for fees and waivers and all of that? Would you carry us through that, please?
Sure. The first thing that happens is I receive an application. And that's an online application. It comes directly through to my email. Once I receive that application, if all the information is there on the application, I can put together a fee estimate and figure out exactly what the costs are going to be, whether there's going to need to be a street closure or police services or Department of Public Services work to be done. And then I compile all that information to put together into a fee estimate. I send that fee estimate to the person who's applying, to the applicant, and then they pay those upfront fees. And then after those upfront fees are paid, they have their event. And once the event is complete, then the rest of it gets billed. For the fee waiver, an applicant, when I send out the fee estimate, when I know that they are looking to get a fee waiver, I will send out an application for the fee waiver to them with their fee estimate and tell them that it needs to go before city council.
Okay, so that, oh, go ahead.
Oh.
Ms.
Well, I mean, if I was having an event in the city, it's just kind of more a curiosity thing, not about this event in particular, but just in general, since this has kind of come up, because, you know, we want to be fair when we do these. And, you know, if someone says they have a hardship waiver, how do we know? You know, because if I was having an event, I just would say I had a hardship, you know, if I didn't want to, I'm just curious about that.
Wendy, can you tell us how many we've done?
But yeah, I guess I'm curious.
I honestly, I don't know for sure. We've done since I've been special events coordinator, we did one for Heritage Festival. We've done it for Park Ridge Summer Festival. And we did something for, I believe was it the Orphan Car Show that we paved the walkway down there at the park in lieu of paying a certain fee.
Yes.
Okay, so we've had some that have come through.
Mm-hmm.
It's just been, okay, and then they always come to council. I mean, I do remember the Orphan Car Show one. And so then we just make a judgment, right? So, okay, I just want to make sure I'm tracking correctly. Okay, all right, no, thank you for that.
Ms. Somerville.
Thank you, Mayor. Quick question. So when we waived, I think since I've been on council, we waived the fees the first year for Heritage Fest, and then we did that same like fiscal year for Park Ridge Summer Fest. In the past, has council ever like moved money from the general budget over to the permit, I guess, pot to kind of make up for that difference? No? Okay.
It's always been in waiving of fees that I recall.
Okay. Interesting. Cool. Yeah, I was just gonna say, we have money left over in the social equity fund this year. We have, I think, $6,000 left. So if council was interested in doing that versus just waiving it, I think that's something. Oh, sorry.
No, I do recall us doing something at Park Ridge. And I know that they had to bring receipts. It was almost like, you know, reimburse them. They needed some money for, I was not prepared to talk about that tonight, but I do believe we have contributed. Is Anthony Williamson still on? Because
he's still on the call.
Okay. Because I do recall us, because we wanted to know, I remember council wanted to know exactly, you know, what do you need this for? And they were saying we still have some outstanding things. And we agreed, I would have to go and look it up. Okay. And we didn't just hand them a check, but we kind of took the receipts, the reimbursement.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious more for the next time Park Ridge comes back about their festival, but I'm happy to support the waiver for this one. I just wondered if maybe we should consider moving, using some of our social equity fund for that, for either event, just because they're both benefits to the community. And I feel like that's part of the language that we used when we set that fund up. So I don't know if anybody's interested in that. I'm interested in supporting the waiver, but if folks would rather actually allocate money that we've set aside for things like this, then maybe we could do it that way. I'm open to either.
Mr. Jones Chance, I'm sorry, I didn't see your hand.
Yep, I was just going to say, Annie, I would be happy to work with you offline about that for Summerfest. And yeah, I guess, Mr. Morgan, would that be an amendment to exclude the application fee from the waiver?
I believe so. I wanted to ask a follow-up question to Wendy when it's my time.
Yes.
Miss Wendy, when you when we're talking about the Orphan Car Show or the Heritage Fest, they come to you and you tabulate the fees for the total cost, or do they come? Is that
They
correct?
come to me, yes.
Right. Is this price here for what they're asking to do? Is this comparable to, say, a Heritage
Typical,
Fest?
yes, it's the way I do all of them.
So the ones that we've waived before are probably somewhere similar to this price range?
Yep.
I didn't
Unless
hear you.
it's like a 3-day event, and then of course it's going to be probably 3 times the amount.
Is this a 3-day event? This is not a 3-day
This
event.
is not a 3-day event, but no, this is
So I'm saying,
pretty
but
typical for a 1-day, yeah.
yeah, so notwithstanding, this is comparable to maybe an Orphan Car Show or a Heritage Fest. That's a 1-day event for a few hours.
Well, it's all day.
What time to what time?
Oh, you mean the orphan cart, you mean the other events. This event is all day. The other events, I'm not sure that they're usually most of the day, yeah.
Okay, okay. All right. And all day, I'm sorry, I'm not looking at the flyer. What is that, like 10 a.m. to 6
Well, and that's
p.m.?
a park versus a street closure as well. And they're kind of not that comparable as far as that goes. Because
That street closed all around the
park
city all day.
improvement fees and other fees as well that don't apply in a street closure.
Okay. Thank you.
Mhm.
Mr. Wilcoxon, did I see your hand?
You did earlier. I think that having a Juneteenth celebration is awesome. I've been going to the one in Ann Arbor for a number of years. Haven't in the past couple of years, but I had been going regularly there. And I can understand the fee waiver and all of this. It seems like the road to this point has been very rocky, and there has been a lot of rhetoric on the part of the applicant that troubles me. And so at this point, I have seen emails that are scathing, unnecessarily so. And so now being asked to waive this it puts me personally, I think in an interesting position to provide something to somebody that has really been problematic. And looking at the greater good of this for the community, I can see doing this, but I just that really concerns me with the statements that have been made. So that's all I want to say.
Thank you. Mr. Jones Chance. I'll come back to you, Mayor Pro Tem.
Yeah, I mean, I see where Mr. Wilcoxon's coming from. I think, though, that there were some miscommunications from the beginning, for sure. But seeing as this is the first year that we've declared Juneteenth a holiday, and this is probably going to be the most visible and largest event that's going on that day in town, it does seem appropriate for this year, for the inaugural event, that we go ahead and let it happen. I think it makes sense, for that reason alone. I mean, we're not going to have another crack at a first year event. This is kind of it.
Mayor Pro Tem Brown.
Yeah, I just wanted to first gain clarification around the waivers that we've done in the past. So I know we've done it 2 different ways. Like at one point we waived all fees for, I believe, Heritage Fest. And I think for Summer Fest, was it Heritage Fest? No, Wendy? Sorry, I see Wendy shaking her head no.
Heritage Fest, I know we gave them, I believe, $5,000.
Oh, we gave, okay.
Can I say something right here, though? Heritage, the city, up until 2 years ago, the city had a written agreement that we were working together with Heritage Fest, and the city had a written buy-in to Heritage Fest from the beginning. And then I think it was a couple of years ago when Councilperson Somerville moved that we end that stop. And then they asked us specifically for $5,000 for an event or something within the midst of Heritage Fest. They wanted us to help sponsor some people or from an island or something that were going to be here. But there was a written agreement from the beginning between the city and Heritage Festival that it would be co-sponsored. So go ahead with I just wanted to clear that up.
Thank you. And then the other part of the question was there not another event where then I believe it was Summerfest, Wendy, you can correct me if I'm wrong, they paid the upfront fees and then we waived the remainder of their fees that they owed? Or was that not a thing?
No, that wasn't paid up front. Or maybe it was paid up front. And I think it might have been paid up front that year.
Okay.
Right.
Mr. Barr has his hand up. He might, he remember.
Mr. Barr, sorry, you're not on my screen, so I can't see you, but please join us.
Good evening, Council.
Good evening.
The history of special events in Ypsilanti goes something like this. Around in 1970, I think 1975, the city was celebrating its sesquicentennial. And so the city, mothers and fathers, decided they should have an event. And that was the start of the Heritage Festival. And it was funded entirely by the city. And that continued for a number of years when the city was more or less flush with money. And then after a while, the city's finances started declining. And so they looked at the budget and they found that the Heritage Festival and festivals were costing them about $30,000 a year, which they really didn't have. And so at that time, there was a change in the policy. And before that time, people would come and have an event. It was kind of laissez-faire. There wasn't much to it. But then the city passed, when I think it was Ed Crisno was city manager, the city passed the special events policy, and they provided that the special events would have to start paying their fair share. The city still continued to support them, and then eventually it became, the city decided that they could not afford to do it, and especially with the Heritage Festival, and the Heritage Festival had to become self-supporting. And that worked for a while, but then the Heritage Festival ran on hard times and came to the city, and the city did give them some money. I think maybe $5,000 one year and $3,000 another, something like that. And in the special events policy, as I remember, there's a provision that says that festivals have to pay, but the city council for nonprofits for good cause can waive some or all of the fees. I hope that helps.
Yes, it does. Thank you very much. And I just, Mr. Jones-Chance alerted me that Mr. Williamson is still with us and that his hand is raised, and someone said that was asking, I had a question for him that they thought he might be able to shed some light on. Ms. Thomas, could you elevate Mr. Williamson?
Hi, hello there. So
Hello.
this is,
Good evening. My question, Mr. Williamson, was, I remember last year, I believe, when we didn't have the amount that you needed. I remember you guys coming to council saying that you still needed money for, I don't know if it was the Joe Doolin, the Summerfest, and you guys I think you submitted your receipts to finance to be reimbursed. I'm not sure how that took place, but if you could carry us back through that, I'd appreciate that.
and so this will be the 10th year of the Summer Festival. So in 10 years, the fees have been waived completely sometimes. We've had to pay fees sometimes. And then one year you guys gave us, with the alternate year that the Heritage Festival didn't get $5,000, you awarded us $5,000 and the fees were waived before.
That's what I'm talking about. Okay, that's the portion that I was talking about. And I don't think we wrote you a check, right? We just, you submitted receipts.
Right, that's correct. We
Okay,
submitted
thank
receipts.
you. That is how I recall.
Okay, thank you, Ms. McMullen. Thank you, Mr. Williamson. Ms. Somerville.
Yeah, just to kind of like go back to it, so that it sounds like the waiver, just like if we approve this waiver, that's the appropriate step to take at this point. Is that what I'm like gathering? I think.
I probably would make a motion to amend the total just to
Are you making a motion?
yeah, I would like to make a motion for the waiver fee to be in the amount of $4,383 and to keep the application fee.
What do you mean by keep the, sorry, I'll
I
ask
mean,
later.
you want to waive the total fees? Okay, let's waive everything, huh? Okay.
The
And I don't-
application fee is $35, so
That's
that,
something. The application is $35. I was thinking, I thought everybody paid the application fee, but if they waive everything totally, I mean, there's no use in making an amendment.
Okay, cool. Well, then I call the question then.
Well, there hasn't been a second, so.
I think he
And
said,
I think this is important enough that I know you have the right to call the question, but I think it's important enough that if there is more discussion, that we need to allow time for discussion. Please. Yes, Ms. Somerville.
cool. So in lieu of calling the question, I will just say, despite some of the issues with the overall planning, I think next year, hopefully it can be handled both from like the organization standpoint and also the city standpoint. I think the first year, you know, there have been a lot of miscommunications and there can be improvement, but I think this is an important event for public interest and to support the community. Our city is, you know, a majority Black city, and this is a day to celebrate that. So, I mean, we waived the fees for Heritage Fest that didn't want Black children unattended by their parents. So that's like the comparison that I'm looking at here. So I don't have an issue supporting this.
Okay, but if I could correct you, this is not a majority Black city. Ms. McMullen.
Yeah, I'd like to say that I am interested. This is my first time where someone has actually approached the city to be an actual partner. So I am definitely interested in working with Mr. Barr to find out how that happens. Because I did see that Ann Arbor has partnered with their Juneteenth committee, and they have their logo, you know, with all of the stuff. And I would like for us to do that as well, and to be at the table, you know, even if we just offered our input and in kind, if it's going to be a community. So I do offer myself and staff to help out, not just with this, but in others, so that we'll have some kind of policy, some kind of practice of what we do when people want us to, you know, be a co-sponsor and perhaps even use our logo. So I'm interested in working with Mr. Barr to find out, you know, how we weigh those, you know, to decide those that we will fund and put our brand on. Because I think it's a good idea to show support behind things like this. So just want to know the proper way to do it. And I want to say that I'll put staff and myself, you know, as a part so that we can do it correctly. And first times, you know, they don't always come out right. But I think the celebration will be something that will uplift the community. And we've learned a lot of stuff from this. And so I'm open to finding out how to correctly move forward. This is a first. So I just wanted to say that.
Right. Mr. Barr, I saw your screen light up a moment ago. Did you have something to add? Thank you, Ms. McMullen.
No, I was just offering a little bit of history on special events.
No, after that, I saw it light up again. Mr. Morgan.
I just want to continue the sentiment of Councilman Wilcoxon. And I do agree, like through the process, there has been some emotions There has been some different types of communication and slander, whatever. And just like even on this call this evening, I do believe some things are just not the right process. And we're always looking forward to making the process smooth. And I do think sometimes when people sling mud at those who either don't know the process or are looking to do the process better, it's not helping anybody get to the solution. And so I'm glad that even if there is a person or a couple people who may have had some things to say, I hope it doesn't stop the entire benefit that this could have for the city. But by saying this, this is my 2 cents, and it is a great celebration, but this is very, very something that can create conflict, not because of the meaning of it, it's just because of the long-standing history of it. And so we're bringing something to the forefront that is not, this is a very complicated and emotion-filled and long historic issue that supports Juneteenth. So, and we're bringing it right to people's faces. Just like 4th of July, when you see flags every day, you're gonna see represented Black flags. It's gonna be in your face whether you agree with 4th of July or Juneteenth or not. So these are the things about our freedoms and our civil liberties that makes this country what it is. And so I don't think it's gonna be all good. I just think it's gonna have to be doable, just like any other holiday. So I support this wholeheartedly, regardless of the road we took to get here.
All right, Mr. Wilcoxon, was your hand up or no? No, okay, Ms. Somerville.
Yeah, I'd like to call the question.
Before that, I've waited to listen to everyone. I do have some comments I'd like to make. Thank you. So is there anyone else before? So my comments will go into the close the question. I would just like to say that I am excited about this event. And I want to start, I guess I should start by saying I thank council for supporting the resolution when I had it presented to council to declare Juneteenth a holiday in the city of Ypsilanti. And at that time, I had thought it would be nice if we could have a celebration, because as someone else said that they had attended the celebration there in Ann Arbor. I've been in and out of that celebration over the years and have certainly always enjoyed it. And we just never had one here in the city. But this being the first year, but with all of the close down and the shutdown and not us not opening things up for events, that was one of the reasons, the reason I did not ask our city staff to plan an event for the first year that we would celebrate this holiday in the city of Ypsilanti. And then when things happen, they happen very quickly. I do, however, wish that that we had followed protocol and caught the process earlier, so that we could have had a smoother move towards bringing forth this event. I believe that it is an event that will benefit the city, and it is the inaugural event. I do believe I heard earlier, received some communication, and he didn't present it as that tonight, but that Mr. Morgan has suggested that we support this as the inaugural event or the inauguration of Juneteenth as a holiday in the city, but not go forth and not support it or not waive things for year after year, that we not be setting precedents. Because in a meeting with some discussing this, that was one of the fears, that we would be setting a precedence that we would have to continue. And having already looked and heard Mr. Barr go back over the history, and also the comments from our city manager regarding going forward. But I do believe that the city should work with groups and do partners, but I think that it's something that needs to be done in good faith on both sides, and that we are all, that we should all be mindful of how we handle things. I will, seeing as it's going to be the sentiment of the most of council to support this. I do support this event. I wish we had handled it in a different way, that it had been much smoother. From the beginning, though, I think council was very generous. Yet council immediately got excited about and supported the Black Lives Matters murals. And I was too late to be a part of the painting of the mural on Washington Street, but I was there for the painting of the mural down at Riverside Park, and was there from the beginning of the start of that painting until the end, and was asked where was the rest of council. And I know I had reached out to council, but council had other things to do. So it's not a lack of support for either of these events, because certainly Juneteenth came out of city council. So I just hope that going forward, that we can all work together in a much smoother, more genteel manner. So.
Mayor, the organizers had her hand up for a while.
Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't see that. I'll just call her name. I don't see her on my screen. Ms. Duckworth.
Yes, so I appreciate everyone's comments and their words. I do not feel, however, scathing is the appropriate word. I don't know if you've ever planned anything to this magnitude. We have before, and we've just never really experienced the communication, the miscommunication back and forth, which could be on both sides. I came here today to show that this is not like a last minute plea. I reached out on May the 14th. I sent an email asking, for the city to be a part. I explained at that time that we could talk and see how the city could be a part. We also explained that at that point in time, we had raised $6,000. The actual website on May the 3rd was updated with our plans for a celebration. So, I mean, we did all that we could do, what we knew to do, to ask you all for a partnership, because in our mind, this was never a Survivor Speak event. It has turned into this, but that was not our goal, to have it as just a one group event, right? It was something that we thought that the city would be a part of, and the city's logo, the school, this thing that we sent out was basically asking for community partners to come in, because at that time we were still in the building stages. So we could have sat down and built together. We did that. We did that on the 14th of May. So we're here right now. I apologize that you think it was so scathing, but for us to have raised that money and then be told no celebration and not even have a clear understanding as to why, when we followed some of the things that we were told to do by Ron Akers and Christopher Jacobs, that's how it happened. And, you have to understand from our point of view, you stated not to let specific groups get preferential treatment, but the Heritage Festival had been waived before it too. And I will say this, we didn't know about all of these fees. We didn't. It was last minute because of the miscommunication. And that's how it came up to where it was like, okay, now we got to try to get this money and raise this money. Had we have known all of this up front, we could have made some other arrangements or tried to do a harder push, go door to door, do whatever we felt we could do, because this is something that was important, not just to us as an agency, right? But for the community. We're looking to uplift Black-owned businesses. There are no vendor fees at all for vendors, right? There are going to be close to $1,800, maybe $2,000 going out in small business grants. The food vendor, which is Cuppies, is receiving a $500 mini grant. So we are really trying to empower the businesses within the city of Ypsilanti, as well as make this something that is community oriented and not a Survivor Speak or Trisha Duckworth event. And if you notice, any interview that was done, we said it was a community. People say, oh, Survivor Speak. No, this is not Survivor Speak. This is a community event. And we're all at the table here. We didn't understand otherwise until a few weeks ago. Whoever fought that is, we just didn't understand it. And so that is kind of sort of where we're at.
Okay, and Ms. Duckworth, we could not, before our meeting on the 1st of June, we could not reply to at all. I didn't see or receive the May 14th request other than the Black Lives mural, but we could not approve an event because at that time, up until 2 weeks ago, the city was closed to any events. We were not having any events at all, any public events, maybe a few private events that were very, very small, but definitely not any public events. And the council had voted not to have any festivals or anything of that sort. So that's why up until 2 weeks ago, there was no way the city could have. And I'm sure had we received a specific request to be a partner with this group to put forth this, as I say, we were excited. I know I was, and wanted to have an event because it was the first time we would be celebrating the holiday Juneteenth in the city. So, but we're not going to belabor the point. Ms. Somerville has been trying to get a motion on the floor to call the question. Is that what your hand's up for?
Yeah, actually, I was just hoping Mr. Barr could explain the process when somebody calls the question. I called the question twice, so I just want to know what was supposed to happen after that.
Well, yes, the motion to call the question is non-debatable. It needs a second and a vote.
But like, it's like someone should have been given the opportunity to second my motion to call the question.
That would be the normal process, yes.
Okay, thank you. I call the question.
And I do apologize if I did that the wrong way.
Support.
Yes, the question's been supported. Call the roll, please, Ms. Thomas.
Councilmember Simmons,
Yes.
Mr. Jones Chance,
Yes.
Councilmember Wilcoxen,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Brown,
Yes.
Councilmember Somerville,
Yes.
Mayor Richardson,
Yes.
and Councilmember Morgan.
Yes.
7 yes votes, the motion carries.
Thank you. And Ms. Duckworth, thank you for all the work that you and your committee and those that have worked with have done. We do anticipate a very glorious and celebratory event on Saturday. Looking forward to it. Thank you.
Thank you all very much. Have a good evening.
Good evening.
I'm going to call the roll of the resolution. Mayor Richardson,
Yes.
Councilmember Morgan,
Yes.
Councilmember Simmons,
Yes.
Mr. Jones Chance,
Yes.
Councilmember Wilcoxen,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Brown,
Yes.
Councilmember Somerville.
Yes.
All right, with 7 yes votes, the motion carries. All right, next council, we have board and commission reports. So the first report we have is Police Advisory Commission.
Police Advisory Commission?
Yes.
Is that what you said?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. That's really short. Our next meeting is coming up June 24th. But I had a one-on-one with the chair, Gail Wolkoff, is having some really creative conversations since the commission has been shaken up a little bit due to its change in leadership suddenly, and so and how it's been ran has been it's being opened up and expanded a little bit. Just so we had a great conversation on how again the functions of YPAC and what its intentions are and what the scope of its power is and how me as a liaison can support that, and moreover how the community which is it, the council or is it the YPAC that has its ear to the pulse of the community that can relay information better. And so these conversations will be continuing, and please don't hesitate to chime in on some of these meetings that we have. Again, the next one is June 24th. Thank you.
Next, we have the Human Relations Commission.
Thank you. So the last meeting was on June 9th, and I'm just pulling up some of my notes here. Some of the items that were discussed were strategies to engage young people to sit on not only Human Relations Commission, but the other boards and commissions within the city, increasing communication with the public, and discussing how to support endeavors to decrease or assist with homelessness with our community members who are houseless. The committee broke the tasks into small groups or subgroups for them to start looking into ideas and working on flyers and figuring out how they can best get out into the community and into the public to start sharing about the roles for young people and just how to communicate across the board what's happening within the city as well as within their commission. And so I'll be looking forward to what they come up with to get started working on those things at our next meeting next month, and I will report on that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have the Arts Commission.
That is Miss Somerville.
It looks like she left the meeting. I saw a little blip, so I don't know if she got booted out or what.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Don't see her.
I don't see her really.
We have Parks and Recs Commission.
That's me. We met on June 9th. New officers are the same old officers. They went through that. So Evan Sweet is still the chair. Some of the items that were covered, Fall River Day event is historically been done between Frog Island and Ford Lake, where they have canoes available for people to float downstream, and they're picked up by the livery and brought back. There's been events in the Freight House with information, and a number of organizations have been present for that. I suggested this year that there also be another site at Penn Park. That's going to coincide. This is going to be in September or October, late September, early October, and that'll coincide with the first report on the preliminary studies for sediments in the bridges. And so expanding the River Day to cover all the points of contact that we have for the city. One of the other things that's happening is there's a M Parks virtual 5K it's a fundraiser for a historical marker at Candy Cane Park for the first female Little League player, which is something that this is known for. Other groups have been trying to fundraise for that. At one point, Kirk Prophet introduced me to a filmmaker who had made a documentary about that girl, and so I'm going to engage them in trying to get the fundraiser for that. And I don't have the exact date for that as well. Sometime in September. So, and the pool is open. There's a report from the Friends of Rutherford Pool. The pool manager, Kathy Thorburn, that is now open and running, should be, as of yesterday, full force after the school had let out for the guards. So that's it.
And next we have. Go ahead, Mr. Coxon.
Sustainability Commission. So let me notes for that. It was a very long meeting last night. There, some of the things, there was a roundtable discussion was introduced into the agenda in which the chair, Keith Michalowski, had shared a couple stories about plastic recycling. And it was an NPR story that basically said that the petroleum industry knew from the beginning in the 70s that recycling was going to, it wasn't so much that they had a great conscience and that they were working to be nice people and protect the planet. It was basically a PR stunt, so that they knew that if they didn't do anything, that people would be up in arms about that. And so what they did was they created certain parts of the recycling program with, stamping plastic and things like that, to make it seem as if something was being done. So it raised the question with Ron Akers and from DPS about, what our efficacy is. And now that we're having, we've joined WARMA, and that is, getting funded for education. We're doing this audit that we've talked about. So they're concerned about, are we throwing good money after bad in trying to support increasing recycling? And basically the consensus was, we still need to do that. Yeah, I think they will be putting forth a resolution that they'll work on at the next meeting that will come to council about supporting recycling. So the other part of this is that they're looking at the goals that have been set in the sustainability plan as part of the master plan, and kind of going through that and assessing kind of leadership on moving forward on those goals, and setting up small working groups that can deal with the individual issues, and then report back to the larger commission. I think that's it.
Thank you, Mr. Wilcoxon.
All right, next we have HDC.
Yeah, unfortunately, I missed their last meeting because I had a conflict, so I don't have anything to report, but I don't think there's really anything controversial going on because I am on some of their emails. So I think HDC is all good.
All right. Next, we have the Planning Commission.
Planning Commission actually meets tomorrow.
We have Zoning Board of Appeals.
Has not met yet.
All right, next council, we have the liaison reports. First, we have the Police Advisory Commission.
What did I just do? Was that?
It's a redundancy on the agenda.
Yeah, it's the same report.
I'll talk to Andrew about that. So.
Okay. Well, yeah, I have nothing more further than except again, June 24th is our next meeting date.
Okay. Human Relations Commission.
Wait, no, you're going back through the commissions. That's not we should get liaison.
Yes, so on the agenda, it lists like the different commissions on under the liaison reports.
Can I make a motion here?
Yeah.
I move that we acknowledge that the liaison reports and the board and commission reports are the same thing, and move on to the council proposed business.
Okay. What happened is there's a duplication of the liaison, of the boards and commission, and the liaisons are not on here. That's what it is. So
second that.
If we just go through, everyone knows what who they are liaison to, and it pretty much kind of I know we always started out with SimCog, and I have no report from SimCog. Watts? Is there a report from Watts? Ms. Simmons?
Sorry,
Mayor,
this
I
is
think
not the
we have
agenda.
a motion on the table.
Apologize.
Your Honor.
Was there a second to that motion? I didn't hear a second to it.
Mr. Jones chance.
I seconded it, but I feel like it's about to be withdrawn.
Yeah, right. So in light of what you said, Mayor, I'll withdraw that motion.
All right, thank you. Mr. Jones chance, do you withdraw your second?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. All right. Okay, Watts,
We actually have a meeting tomorrow, so I'll have an update at the next meeting.
okay. Oh, help me with the,
I got you. No worries. I got you.
you got
Urban
me.
County, yes, I found it. Urban County.
I have nothing to report tonight.
Next we
Well, I
have,
do, in the sense that the last meeting, and I guess it was the day after our last meeting, so it's been 2 weeks. We had a presentation from, oh gosh, the public health director, Ms. Lovelock, and was explaining, and she went through how the virus had dwindled here within the county. And she also showed slides of where it had affected most, and had breakdown even as far as the not just by districts or municipalities within the county, but also there was one, she showed a slide by race, and there were 2 or 3 other slides that was showing how the virus had not only dwindled, but was being handled here within the county. Also, and I'm trying to think of the index. The county, the OCD produced, and I don't have it in front of me because I wasn't thinking of that report tonight, but I will send it out to everyone by email. And we can all go on the county website to see it. Thank you.
all right, next we have Ypsilanti Downtown Development Authority.
Hey, good evening, council. We have a meeting on Thursday. It'll be a busy agenda with a bunch of grants to approve as we get set to begin the next fiscal year.
All right, last but not least,
Jacob.
we have Friends of Rutherford Pool.
Friends of Rutherford Pool. I think I reported on this last time. Don't recall what I said. Solar panels are up. The pool is open for most programs. They're still keeping it at lower capacity, 117. I think the total capacity is 380 or something like that. And things seem to be going well. There is an issue with parking. When there's multiple events going on in the park, there's been some problem with people speeding in the parking lot and taking up handicap spots and parking in the fire lane and things like that. And so Jessica Fall, I put in touch with Bonnie Wheeler, and they're working to clear that up with signage and painting of the spots. But everything seems to be going pretty well so far. So,
Mr. Wilcoxon, since the number in the pool is limited, are they putting any time limits on, say that giving 2 hours for the first 117 and then
right.
2 hours for the next 117 or anything of that sort?
Yeah, so they're doing shifts, and that allows them to give everybody a chance to get into the pool. And so it used to be that you could go in the beginning of the afternoon and just stay inside the fence until adults swim at 5 o'clock. I think they've broken that into 2-hour increments and have everybody move out of the pool and out into the grass at that point, so that other people have chances. So.
Okay, so there is a rotation.
Yep.
All right, thank you. Okay, Ms. Thomas.
Next, we have council proposed business.
Okay, did Miss Somerville come back?
I just tried texting her and haven't gotten a response.
Don't see her.
I think she may have had some technical difficulties.
Okay, all right, Mr. Jones-Chan.
Nothing really new to report. I did attend a neighborhood association meeting at Park Ridge Community Center this past Saturday. There are some issues concerning the parks that I'll take care of offline. Otherwise, no new reports. There is a few of us are meeting with some of the youth from Educate Youth to talk about their perceptions of violence issues in the city. And that's all.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Morgan.
Thank you, Mayor. Just two quick things. I've had a virtual meeting with two scientists from Wayne County. One of the ladies named is Cassandra Slater. They have a business called Chempreneurist, and it's like a mix between creating your own products and entrepreneurship, where young people learn how to make money developing products that are for everyday use. And they have this program that they want to bring to Ypsilanti for some of the nonprofits and youth serving organizations. And they wanted to have a decent time just to come and present to council for like 10 to 12 minutes. And they definitely would like to do some pro bono services up in the city of Ypsilanti. So that's one thing. And I'll forward some information to all the council members about it. And moreover, I would probably just echo what Mr. Brian Jones said about this meeting we have to meet tomorrow, talking with citizens and youth about violence in the city. And coming up, I know we're gonna have some input sessions about the North Park development over here in the city. And so I hope a lot of people come out from different diverse backgrounds to put their input in there. It's going to be I'm sure it's going to be eventful. So and those are the things that's on my plate for this week. Thank you, Mayor.
All right, thank you. That came up, myself and Mr. Wilcox and Mayor Pro Tem was speaking to Mr. Fox's class, and certainly that came up about how the neighbors sometimes want change and sometimes they don't. So it shall be interesting. Okay, Mayor Pro Tem.
I don't have anything tonight. Thank you.
Okay. Ms. Simmons.
I don't have anything except I just want to say a big thank you to Mr. Akers. I had some questions for him, and he was just, as always, just super helpful, and just appreciate what he does, and as well as his staff. And then I was just going to mention, there's this sorry, I'm going to get it wrong. There's this COVID testing challenge for Ypsi and Ann Arbor. I don't know if folks are aware of that, but where you can get, if you live in either Ann Arbor or Ypsilanti, you can get free testing kits to your house, and they want you, maybe test twice a week, and report in if you have any positive results. So I apologize, I just had this email up, but anyway, I'm just mentioning that because I think you can go to like local community health and contact them to get it. Apologize that I suddenly now can't find it. Oh, here it is. Yeah, so free at-home COVID testing. It's covidtestaaypsi.org, and they'll even send it to you at home. So I just had gotten mine today. And so anyway, they're doing it for the month of June, and it's to help, with kind of tracking, what's going on in the community. And our communities were selected because we have higher rates than other ones. So I don't know, just encouraging people to maybe check that out and consider, participating. So I think that's really all I have for today.
All right, thank you. Mr. Wilcoxon.
Thank you, man. Just want to give an update on Penn Dam public engagement. There was a meeting on the 10th This included Jennifer Simmons and myself from council. Christopher Jacobs was there from staff. Beth Gibbons and Brian Foley, sustainability commissioners, were there. And then Isla Coltis, who's a Ward 3 resident and digital marketing expert, and Sally Lusk, who is an impoundment landowner, was there. And this was kind of co-led. You know, I chaired the meeting, and I'm certainly trying to pass that off. But Summer Woods and Michelle Watts from the consulting firm were there and led a discussion of the participants, the committee members, you know, and after basic introductions and where people stood on the issue at this point, you know, Summer addressed the importance of equitable and inclusive engagement, you know, how she plans to go about addressing equity in the timeline for this, and then also briefly gave it an overview of the intercultural development inventory that they use for engagement processes. And so there was, you know, good discussion. Some of the questions that were posed were, you know, why is the project important? Concerns about the project, you know, and what does a successful engagement look like? And this group has, you know, differing opinions on this. And so it's good to have all of those opinions kind of addressed at this point in it, and then so that we know what we need to do when we have the public meetings as well. And so we'll be having more frequent meetings. I need to touch base with Summer this week about when those will happen and get those scheduled. And then the idea that we'll have the first public meetings towards the end of July, and then move forward with those on a regular basis until September. So aside from that, you know, I've gotten reports about, you know, people speeding through neighborhoods. And it's interesting that people are reluctant to report it because they don't want to engage the police, and you know, there seems to be this sentiment that some people just don't want the police involved. And to me, I think this is one of the perfect things, that this is what the police should be doing. And there's the other sentiment that they don't want to bother the police with this. You know, the police have more important matters to be dealing with. And so it's interesting to see how people reason through this when it could be just a simple call and say, hey, you know, there's people recklessly driving down our street and endangering us and disturbing the peace and all of those kinds of things. But there's this thought pattern that's going on that precludes them from just reporting it. So I'm not sure how we can address that as a body, but I think that's probably happening all over the city as well. So just put that out there. So I'm done.
Mr. Wilcoxon, just to build on what you were saying, I get those same reports of not wanting to call the police, but for a very different reason. My people don't want to call the police because of fear of what could happen if the police come. And I don't believe any of our residents or any of us should fear calling the police. But I hear that over and over again, that this was going on, or that was going on, or I saw this, or I saw that. And I did not want to call the police for fear of what would happen, because the people involved were Black.
Right.
And we heard at our neighborhood association meeting on Saturday, we heard Officer Eddings, I believe he's Officer Eddings, he relayed an incident with a 19-year-old Black young man that now had absolutely no record at all, but now has a record because they were trying to stop him because they said he was following a car too closely. And the young man tried to outrun them and then got out of the car and ran. And when they got him, they asked why he ran. And the whole thing was because he was afraid of the police. And so now he has a record for being afraid of the police, essentially. And so this is something that we really do need to, look at and work on. Hopefully, I know that, yes, we need to look at the violence, but as also, on the other hand, the response to the violence when people are afraid to call the police because of what might happen.
Right.
So this is something that I think that we, as council, we need to look at, and to look at the whole idea of policing within the city, maybe as a whole, and how the violence is addressed, and just how we can do something about it and make a difference. So it's something that I think we need to look at. Mr. Jones-Chance.
Mrs. Simmons reminded me of something that I'd forgotten, and that is some of those test kits will be, I think they're being distributed from IPSI Can I Share. I'm not sure the organization, I think it's IPSI Can I Share, but they'll be at my office on Saturday. And I guess I'll just try to update when they give me the time that they're going to distribute. But that's kitty corner from City Hall. It's at 107 Ferris. So there will be home test kits here.
And you will be right there in the midst of the in the midst of the celebration.
I wonder if they thought about how people would access the door, but we will work that out.
Okay, thank you. Anything else, Mr. Wilcoxon, Ms. Simmons, Ms. Brown? Okay, all right. Council, I mean, I have presented this over and over. This is for staff. 411 2nd Avenue. I've got people stopping me on the street, people calling me about 411. This place has been reported over and over and over again. I have had people call me that have gotten letters from the building department where the building officer has gone into their backyards, their yards, their front yards, the house is very neat and everything. And for whatever reason, the building inspector has gone beyond. And so the people that have gotten letters or citations from the building officer are calling me and saying, how can I get a letter when that's allowed to be there at 411 South 2nd Avenue? It has been like that for years. We complained, and I have brought it to council. Even at one point, Mr. Barr took a drive by himself, saw the situation. It improved for maybe 2 days, and then it began to build right back up. Can we please do something about 411 2nd? I spoke with Mr. Jackson about it, but he did inform me that they have now divided up the city, and he is taking care of the north end, and Miss Berry is taking care of the south end of the city. So if we could please do something about 411 2nd Avenue. Also, I asked, I brought it up, I don't know if it was the last meeting or a meeting before that, the lot at on the corner of First and Harriet Street. Once again, the little fence that they did put up, it's down. It's still a dangerous, and it's really an unsightly place. I don't know if the 2 council members from Ward 1 would agree with me if you've been by there lately, but certainly there needs to be some attention to that lot. If you would, please. I think, I don't know if that, Mr. Myers, I think that one belongs to you. Okay. Okay, the Mr. Williamson mentioned it very, very quickly. but the parking lot there at Park Ridge is being used by people from New Park Ridge. When the police come and they need to move or whatever, they're moving, or they're parking over there at the center. And there was a request that there would be no parking signs from from PM to AM. So I didn't exactly remember exactly what time they wanted no parking there, but so that there are not cars that are eluding the police and parking on the over in that Park Ridge, right there by the center. So if we could have some no parking signs put there. Not only did Mr. Williamson ask that, I did attend the Housing Commission meeting on last week. I think it was on Thursday or Friday, Wednesday or Thursday of last week, maybe Friday. But anyway, they also asked that there be signs there because they don't want the cars just crossing the street and still being there in that area either. So council, all of you and all of council and Mr. Barr, you received an email inviting you to the race and equity first conversation on June 21st. It's next Monday, and you are invited not as council people or as the city attorney, but you are invited to come as residents of the city and to join in with other residents to discuss the issues of race, diversity and equity and inclusion and all of the above, so that we can begin to address the issues of racism in the city. We can't deny that racism doesn't exist here. It does. We can't deny that inequity doesn't exist here, because it does. And would like for all of council to just join in with our residents as equals across the board to discuss this and to see what to expose what's there, and also to begin to look at how we can make a difference and make our city exactly what we want it to be. In so many ways, Ypsilanti over the years has been a lead. We've been the first in many, many ways. I remember back during the time when our budget was falling and the finances were going down. Even before they became bad, our city manager at the time began to cut the things out of the budget and bring it down. He began to address it so that when the real crash came, we were already in a good place to handle the big drop in our budget. And we were the first in the state to have done that. And there were many ways that many other municipalities followed suit with some of the things that we did. There were other instances. I think we were the first in Washtenaw County to do a ban the box, and some other firsts that we have had. So let's be the first once again in Washtenaw County or in the state of Michigan, possibly, to really begin to look at and make some definite long-lasting changes within our city. Okay, appreciate that. I still need some youth. This group of citizens, we wanted it to be completely diverse in every area: age, sex, or gender, race, ethnicity, completely diverse across the board. So we do need some youth, and not only for this group, but we also need some youth on our commissions. I know the police commission needs some youth, and I believe it's the planning and another commission that needs some youth. So if you know some young people, I've been reaching out, and I'm still reaching out to educate youth and also to some other youth groups that I know. So on back to the call the question, again, I want to apologize if I handled that wrongly. But if before we move to call the question, if we could just make sure that everyone at the table has had a chance to have a part in the conversation or the discussion that is going on. I have noticed on more than one occasion that the question has been called and there were still people that had never had the opportunity to speak or be a part of that discussion. So, and they might have had something that really was the answer to the whole dilemma that we were discussing. So please, before we're quick, and I know sometimes our discussions can get long and we really want to just bring an end to them, but let's stop and think, or even just ask, has everyone had an opportunity to speak before we call the question? So, but I do apologize if I did handle that wrongly. So that is all that I have for this evening. I usually don't have this much, but.
All right, next we have communications from the city manager.
Thank you, Chelsea. I wanted to answer the question from Mr. Williamson about the signs in the parking lot of Park Ridge. And I did speak with Ron about that, and the signs are ordered and they're in. It's just based on availability of staff, but he said that they should be in by, they should be installed, erected by the end of the week. People have been out, particularly the sign person. So he said by Friday, Mr. Williamson. I wanted to announce
You've been muted.
Thank you. I'm not sure how much you heard, but the public participation meetings for 220 North Park, the development, there's going to be virtual Zoom meetings occurring. And I hope you all have received the flyer. If not, I'll have Joe to send it back through, but it'll start on June 28th at 1 p.m. And also on June 29th at 7:00 p.m. And so this is for public engagement, just so that we can hear the comments of the public regarding the proposed small homes that I believe we showed you guys. It's a part of the process. So the process is beginning. Another thing I wanted Joe to address, if he could, if he doesn't mind, the two locations that the mayor brought up that were nuisances. I believe it was 2nd Avenue.
Yes, it was.
So with 2nd Avenue, they have already received 3 tickets this year due to the junk on the property. We've realized over the past 3 years, where there's been over 10 citations issued, that the citations we're issuing are not working. To clean up the property, they will pay the fine. So what our plan is to work with our city attorney's office, which we've been doing for the past month and a half, to figure out another recourse, because what we've been doing isn't working. As far as the property on First and Harriet, that's something that we've been working on for a number of years now. And the issue with that is the code that we cited under. So the code says they have to have a fence. The fence is looking a little crappy now. We understand that, and now we have to get it fixed, but it's not as simple as just making them do something different, because technically it's an active construction site, even though it looks like a pile of trash. And it's something that we don't like, but that one's a weird section of the code. So we're working on both actively, as well as many other properties in the city. But those two have been a very big problem for a long time. And with the first one, we're trying to figure out another way, and the second one, we're trying to figure out the code that it applies to.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Myers. And lastly, I'd like to report that tomorrow we will be posting the job opening for our social worker and also for our communications director. So those postings will come up tomorrow. Staff has been meeting, even with some of you, to come up with the appropriate job description and qualifications for both. And so we're excited. We're also excited that we have located an HR consultant that has begun our compensation study. So we are moving right along, and we hope to have that to you soon as well. Thank you. That concludes my announcements.
Thank you, City Manager. Is there any communication, Ms. Thomas?
No, ma'am.
No, okay, no communication. All right, we need to go into closed session. So, Ms. Thomas, would you call the roll for that, please?
All right, a motion is required, and that's need to be followed by a second before we call the roll.
And
I
have a-
move. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
So moved to go into closed session.
Support.
It's been moved and second to go into closed session. Now call the roll, please.
Yes.
Can I just say that Ms. Thomas, if this is your first time doing this, I think you're a rock star.
Oh, thank you. I
Yeah,
appreciate
you're doing such an awesome job.
it. Thank you. Appreciate it. Mr. Jones-Chance,
Yes.
Councilmember Wilcoxon,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Brown,
Yes.
Councilmember Somerville, Mayor Richardson,
Yes.
Councilmember Morgan,
Yes.
Councilmember Simmons.
Yes.
6 yes votes and 1 absence. The motion carries.
Thank you.
And if there is anyone in the attendees list or any staff, could you please remove yourself if you're not associated with the closed session, please? So give them a few minutes.
We just remove them.
All right, so we're good to go to reconvene.
All right, could we have a motion to close the closed session, please?
I make a
So
motion
moved.
to close.
Sorry, Anthony. I'll support.
No, you do that. I'll support. Go ahead.
Okay.
Either way, it's been moved and second that closed session be closed. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. I believe now that we are ready for
I would
that.
like to move to excuse Annie Somerville.
Support.
Okay.
In that
Is that
excuse,
necessary, Mr. Brown?
I make a motion to.
You're on
You're
mute, Mr.
muted,
Burr.
Mr. Brown.
Yes, I lost my connection, but we can go ahead and close.
Okay, no, there's a motion on the floor to excuse Councilmember Somerville. Is that necessary?
Not necessary, but it's allowable.
Okay. Okay, it's been moved in second to excuse Councilmember Somerville. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none. She is excused, and
I
now
make
I
a motion to
entertain a motion to adjourn,
to
please.
adjourn this meeting.
Support.
Thank you.
It's been moved and
Aye,
seconded to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Do I hear any opposed to that?
Hey.
So what you got up, Mr. Wilcoxon, that you don't want to end this meeting? Thanks, everyone.
Thank
Good
you.
All right. Have a good night. Thanks for all the work you guys
Good
do.
night.
Aye.